Hey guys, today we're going to be diving into Quilboars in Hearthstone Battlegrounds and just how easily the tribe is right now standing out. Right now it has one of the highest win rates that I think I've ever seen in Hearthstone Battlegrounds meta, and this is really due to its potential for exponential growth. With most of their scaling mechanics being multiplicative, you can really significantly amp up your blood gem generation, which is also going to enhance your minion stats, and this just kind of creates a reinforcing loop of a buff that then gives you more gems, which then gives you more buffs, and it repeats itself. So let's go through, I guess, the early game strats for Quilboars, the mid game strats, and then some of the end game comps that you can actually run. So in the early game, your real key minions that you should be looking for is on 2, Prophet of the Boar. This is just a really strong gem generator that's also going to give you the Quilboar trinkets, even though it's not a Quilboar itself. And then on Tavern Tier 3, Bristling Buffoon is also another really good gem generator. And this is kind of the start of that whole feedback loop of making it bigger gives you more gems every turn. And then the other minion that's really key for Quilboars is Prickly Piper. Prickly Piper really stands out more than Jazzer in the early game because of its ability to have repetitive effects. So Jazzer is a 2-cost battle cry that gives you 1 health. The Piper's a death rattle, so you're going to be getting that scaling every turn. Kind of the thing to call out here is if you're running a hero power like Shutterwalk that can redo the battle cry every turn, then Jazzer is a really good pickup in the early game as well. But Piper is going to be your early game scaling that you really look for on your blood gems. Now, going into the mid game, you should really be looking to start transitioning around when your gems hit around the 5 attackish mark. At that point, the gems are actually doing something. And at this point, you start making the decision of 2 paths to play in the Quilboar strategy. It's either a shot phase buffing or a in combat buffing comp. Shot buffing is kind of what we generally think about creating blood gems during the shot phase, playing those, and having permanent stats. This is generally going to be the higher cap for scaling, but also poses the greater risk. The main thing is it's very reliant on you actually forming a strategy and acquiring the right minions for whatever strategy you're going to be running. Combat scaling focuses on leveraging cards like Tough Tusk, Three Little Quilboars, and Bristleback to create synergies during the combat. This strategy allows you to reset the Divine Shields and just maximizes the amount of attacks your Tough Tusk can do. And in general, it's going to have a little bit of a lower scaling comp, and also requires less cards to kind of get together. Really, you just need Tough Tusk and then some type of reset, whether that be 3 Little Quilboars or the Bristleback. But as we get into, there are a lot of other synergies that you can get into. So really, your choice of strategy should be kind of reflected of 2 things. One, if you get a key 5 or 6 drop that plays into one of these strategies, and 2, if your trinket makes you play into one of these strategies. So let's start diving into some of the end game comps that we'll see. The game in the background will be focusing on the first one, which is Siren plus Conductor Portrait. This one you can only play if Nagas are in, but what you can do is get the Conductor Portrait and use the Siren Naga. And what this has is whenever it gets hit, it creates a spellcraft in your hand. And what you can do is the spellcrafts will get discarded at the end of the turn using the Conductor Portrait that then plays essentially a smuggler type effect on your board where it's giving you all your blood gems on all the cards. So really you have a really good feedback loop here of making Siren bigger gives you more spellcrafts, which then gives you more gems played, and you have a really good feedback loop. Making the Siren golden, also using either eyes or actually just goldening it traditionally, will give you double the spellcrafts and thus double your scaling. Another combo to kind of think about is Jaro Gems and Tough Tusk, where, and with this you can also run any other type of in combat scaling Quilboars. But what this does is whenever you attack with the Tough Tusk, it's going every 2 attacks plays a blood gem on all of your Quilboars. So this is a way to reset your Tough Tusk in the fight. And the other stuff that you can do with this is playing those other in-combat scaling Quilboars, like the 3 Little Quilboars. That's another reset on your Tough Tusk, or Bristleback, which can avenge to be another blood gem on your cards. And this just keeps resetting the Tough Tusk and makes it so they're really hard to deal with. And this is kind of like the Quilboars version of scamming. Similar to this is if you have Calligraphy set, You can run Death Rattle minions that summon cards, and also potentially run Bristleback. And with Calligraphy set and any type of Death Rattles, you have more potential for your gems to scale every turn. This is especially good with things like Mecha Horse that just have a ton of summons that come out of them. But really, any type of resummon, the biggest thing you can do is get at least one resummon, and that way when you lose a round, you get the Avenge proc a second time, and that just really helps your early game scaling as well, especially if you get this in your lesser trinket. The other thing that's really been popular and what has really taken Quilboars to the point where they are really popping off right now is if you do that early Piper, you find an early a gem, and you have any type of gem generators, you can just run a bunch of good Menagerie minions, whether it be Cleaves, Divine Shields, any type of just like anti-scam or whatever, and get a lot of really good utility out of the gem. And because they're Divine Shields, you don't even really care about the health scaling. Obviously, it's a little bit better, but as long as you have some type of gem generation and a gem, you can do really well with that. Next two go into some of the like battle cry synergies. So the most common one is going to be end of turn Quilboars, and what this does is it uses a combination of Moon Bacon Jazzer, Old Murkai, and Gem Smuggler. And what happens is at the end of the turn, the Murkai procs with the Jazzer and the Gem Smuggler and just plays a Blood Gem and buffs the Blood Gems every turn. And this is a really strong, and you can make it exponential using cards like Bran and Drakari Enchanter, and making the Moon Bacon and the Gem Smuggler golden. And you can easily do that with Eyes because, you know, Smuggler and Jazzer are both a 2-drop and a 4-drop. Similar with this, in the mid game, you can play a similar core, but instead of the Murkai, you can actually run Rylak and use the Jazzer early, and once you make your Rylak golden, you can also use the Smuggler in the combat. But you can use stuff like McCall and Titus Ribbondale to really just get a lot of health scaling on your gem very quickly in the mid game. And this also kind of naturally transitioned into that previous comp of the Murkai, because all you do is you take the Rylak out and put a Murkai in the same spot, and then you can drop the McCall and the Titus for other just better minions to play until you eventually find the Brandon Drakari and the other better exponential scalings there. And then the last thing that's kind of a niche comp that honestly I've only ran a couple of times, but I feel like it's worth just calling it out for completionist sake, is doing something like 3 little Quilboars or Bristleback, some type of in-combat scaling with 2 Amalgam type minions and Persistent Poet. And what this does is it essentially transitions that in-combat scaling to permanent scaling on at least those 2 Amalgam type units. And that's kind of a way to get long-term value out of your minions, and then eventually in your last couple of fights, you probably just sell off the Persistent Poet and just play your best in-combat board. But anyways, hopefully this kind of just gives you a couple ideas for how to play the Quilboars, what you should be thinking. I would say the biggest and most important thing, especially in the early game, is getting that Piper scaling going. If you don't have your Piper going, there's really no point in picking up the late game Quilboars. And you'll see that's kind of why I think Quilboars have the curve that they do right now on HS Replay, where they have a really high first place and then they kind of fall off second through fourth and then start spiking fifth through eighth. And I think a lot of this is people find the key like 6-drop Quilboars but never got the early game scaling going, and really that just kind of kills the potential for those Quilboars. So really looking at how the synergy that you can do between your trinkets, your gem generation, and your gem scaling is very important to get Quilboars going. So anyways, hopefully this helps you guys. Hopefully you have a good luck on your climbs. Good luck out there. See ya. Bye.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that I'm inspired by all this shit. Tell me that I can and I won't. That's what guides me the most. Fuck your lies, I'll do what I want. Inspired by thirst, I'm inspired by worth. I desire your worst, so you can just hide while I work. I ain't tired, you first. I'll write a second, third verse about the lies you go disperse. You never did shit, I know it hurts. Something deep inside won't let me